In middle school English language arts, reading comprehension is routinely measured through a specific, isolated lens, a short text passage followed by a handful of multiple-choice questions. While students correctly identify main ideas on standardized exams, they often struggle to trace a claim's origin or detect a source's conflict of interest. Identifying a theme is an entirely different skill than verifying a fact. The reality is that actual information ecosystems do not present data in perfectly contained paragraphs with 4 clean options attached. They are messy, contradictory, and often rely on missing information. To prepare students for that environment, we utilize structured cognitive friction. This is an instructional design concept that forces students to struggle productively with conflicting facts. When students evaluate actual source trails and synthesize competing evidence, they must do so without knowing the correct answer in advance. True literacy requires a curriculum engineered to help students navigate conflict, rather than a curriculum designed to help them locate an obvious truth. Welcome to the Editorial. This is an immersive 10-day ELA simulation built specifically for 8th grade classrooms. The ELA block functions as a collaborative newspaper editorial board, shifting the focus from individual silent reading to group-level evidence weighing. The students' mission is exact. Acting as the Westfield Gazette editorial board, they must select 2 op-eds to publish ahead of a public forum on district homework policies. They cannot simply select the opinions they agree with. Before publication, they must explicitly state the exact evidence conditions required to support each claim. The simulation replicates the pressure of a public forum, where every editorial choice must be defended against peer challenge and counter-evidence. By elevating a standard reading comprehension task into an editorial decision, educators rigorously teach the mechanics of media literacy. Inside the Westfield Gazette newsroom, one non-negotiable rule stands: evidence always dictates the final editorial outcome. This 10-day timeline starts on day 1, where students establish a baseline understanding of available materials. At the submission desk, they map specific claims and limitations across 5 op-eds. On day 2, they investigate source trails, analyzing the backgrounds of authors submitting pieces. Here, they learn a critical distinction. An author's credentials may grant them access to the editorial board, but those credentials never automatically validate a claim. By day 3, they open the verification file, where they test the claims using 5 distinct evidence methods. Every claim must be officially labeled as supported, partial, unsupported, or uncertain. This process specifically trains students to recognize that uncertain is a highly rigorous, entirely valid analytical conclusion when the data is incomplete. This sequential mapping ensures that students build their arguments on verified data structures rather than their emotional first impressions. Once the baseline is established, the simulation intentionally introduces cascading crises to expose deep thinking patterns. It requires both the physical and the mental effort to actively weigh competing narratives against each other in real time. This diagram shows the Day 5 challenge: same data, different frame. Students analyze 2 competing headlines, extracting different data points from the exact same central bar chart. Their objective is to synthesize a perfectly neutral summary from these 2 accurate but intentionally incomplete headlines. On day 6, the friction increases. Students must weigh the systematic evidence they have gathered against stakeholder letters demanding publication. This introduces the concept of false equivalences. The lesson specifically trains students to identify emotional arguments and avoid giving them equal weight to verified data. Finally, on day 7, they must survive a rigorous red team review, where editorial boards critique another team's selections. The red team actively scans the opposing board's work for specific flaws, factual accuracy, redundancy, and missing counterclaims. Engineering this intense friction forces students to defend their internal logic against external peer scrutiny, building robust, resilient readers. This raises a primary dilemma for ELA administrators. How do you objectively grade the process of media literacy? The editorial solves this with a structural change. In this simulation, there is no hidden preferred editorial option. No student submission automatically wins or loses. The grade is completely decoupled from the final outcome. This chart shows the transparent 120-point grading system used to assess evidence accuracy and reasoning. Early-stage assessment points accumulate through a daily evidence record and a midpoint analysis. The remaining points are distributed across the peer critique, final analytical product, and consequence response. This rubric explicitly rewards students for robust revision and for providing honest explanations of their uncertainty. ELA departments no longer need to grade whether a student guessed a teacher's preference. They grade the rigorous methodology the student utilized to decide. For ELA teachers, stepping into the managing editor role is operationally seamless. You operate in a calm, controlled environment, supported by a structured instructional design. The Teacher Confidence Guide provides a numbered setup that fits into a 20-minute planning window. The simulation relies on a predictable, repeatable, 4-part daily routine: diagnose, intervene, implement, and evaluate. The entire ecosystem is tightly controlled. All scenario evidence is strictly fictional, meaning zero outside research is required from the teacher or the student. With robust scaffolding and a complete paper fallback option, this complex cognitive exercise can be executed in any classroom infrastructure. Moving past multiple choice comprehension requires a shift toward navigating the types of informational conflict students encounter in the real world. Decoupling the grade from the final outcome forces students to prioritize the accuracy of their internal logic over the popularity of their conclusion. ELA administrators, department heads, and teachers, it is time to shift your instructional block. Teach your students the heavy, consequential weight of the published word. Get the simulation and more information at patienslearning.com.